Why, hello there. My name is Paddington. You're probably wondering why nobody is there to review this film. Well, to answer your question, I am a bear, and I did not want to scare you away from this movie review. So, in order for me to do that, I will now introduce Tom Richardson, who will review my film, Paddington, for me instead. As I cannot review my own film, he must do it instead.
So hey guys, that was my attempted Ben Whishaw voice impression of Paddington for you. Um, I recently saw the film Paddington, which is based off the popular British book children's series of the same name. Um, Paddington is basically a story about a young bear who can speak in human tongue. The bear family that, or this bear species, I guess I could say too, that Paddington is from, also has spoken in human tongue for several years. It is introduced right away in this film that, these explorers who went to Peru, or darker Peru, I think is what they call it in the movie, specifically where these bears lived. Um, Basically, they learned how to speak human tongue. They briefly taught how to speak bear to these humans, and so they learned a little bit about human life and they about how to speak in human tongue and things like that. But most of the story right away, even though there is an opening scene learning about these bears, we do get to know Paddington, the bear character, right away, the lead bear of the story. And something tragic happens to his family. I don't want to spoil that, but it is important to know that something does happen to them. I think it's pretty spoiler free and fair to share for a synopsis. The other spoiler free share thing I want to share with you about for the synopsis, if I can use all these S's in the right way, um, is that basically, like I said, something tragic happens to Paddington. Something happens that kind of separates this family for at least a little bit, and it brings him to London, which is apparently Paddington can get there by boat and by a train. So obviously before the family split up for this temporary split up, they wanted Paddington to go to London anyway because I think one of his somebody that these bears knew or something like that, or I think Paddington always wanted to go there or something along that line. Basically, they send him there, and a family takes him in right away, and this gives Paddington an opportunity to learn about how people live, how they talk with each other, kind of how learning how to talk like a bear is pretty challenging for them. But one thing Paddington catches on with right away is he knows how to be polite to people. He knows how to be nice to people. He knows how to present himself. But unfortunately, he doesn't know a lot of simple things like brushing your teeth and good hygiene and how to use a bathtub, how to use a shower, how to use an escalator, how to read signs and things like that. Um, these are things that Paddington has to learn along the way throughout the film, since obviously he's lived as a bear his whole life in a jungle where he can do bear things, and obviously these bears live very differently than the humans did. Um, but along the way, and I guess I want to be careful on how I talk about this part of the synopsis. Um, there's a character played by Nicole Kidman. She's basically a collector of sorts, I guess you could say. I don't want to say what because that might kind of, once again, I want to keep this as spoiler free as I can. But what I do want to tell you, like I said, is that Nicole Kidman is basically the villainous character of the movie. And she is somehow connected to Paddington. I will say that too. Like I said, I won't go into detail on that stuff because I want you to see this film. But basically, she goes and is after Paddington this time. Is willing to go through severe things to get him, and one thing happens to another, and now Paddington is somewhat, in a way, on the run from this person who was after him, who was connected to his past. So that's a pretty long synopsis, but that's the best I can do, spoiler free for you for Paddington. So overall, guys, I really did enjoy the Paddington movie, though. This is a very well done film. This is a very good family film, a good kids film. This is definitely the first kids film in a while too, where I can honestly say like the parents hopefully will enjoy it as much as the kids do, or the adults will like it as much as the kids will. It's just one of those things where they were able to keep the humor so it's not too dirty, so that the kids could watch it, but they were able to keep it entertaining enough too, where the adults could enjoy it and take it in as it is and things like that. So it's just a really well done movie overall. But so for my positives and negatives of Paddington, this is a very fun and unique narrative that they use for this film. People talk about something from their past, or um, So basically when people talk about their past in this film, they kind of have this like exaggerated bubble that you would see in like on a comic book, and obviously that bubble becomes the whole screen, and we get to see that exaggerated flashback or the exaggerated expression that that character does throughout the film, and it's really fun to watch. They keep it consistent and they keep it fun throughout the movie. Another thing they do here a lot too is I can definitely tell this director is probably a big fan of Wes Anderson, or at least has borrowed elements of some of his films, because kind of like a Wes Anderson film, like whenever there's all these activities going on in one person's house, you'll see that person doing that one thing in a certain room and another person doing another thing in that room, and so on and so forth. That element is very much borrowed here throughout the film, and it's pretty consistent, and it's applied very well too. In fact, they probably did use some CGI here, and you'll see what I mean as you watch the film. They almost had to have used CGI for some of the stuff that you see for those particular scenes and things like that. But like I said, if you love Wes Anderson, there's definitely a little bit of his style that this director borrows from, and he does it really well. And he also keeps it distant enough that he can kind of make it his own without completely stealing from Wes Anderson's approach to begin with. Another huge positive thing I have about Paddington is I really love the CGI in this film. The bears really do like real bears walking around. Like the fur looks real, the eyes look real. There's a lot of times too in this film where I had to remind myself I was looking at something that was CGI, because there really was a lot of scenes here where the actors and actresses involved with this movie really make it convincing that this bear is walking around and interacting with things. And so they did a very good job applying CGI to this film. Definitely one of the better CGI applied films I've seen in a long time too. I also love the adorable Paddington character overall. This is a very fun lead character to follow in this movie. I like how he's really polite and how he has a hard time getting used to how people live and things like that. But just the overall character is a lot of fun. Huge thumbs up to Ben Whishaw too for really making a fun voice for this character that really seems appropriate as well. They were talking about using Colin Firth at one time, but looking back on it and seeing the film for myself, I don't think he would have been a good choice for the voice of this character. Ben Whishaw was a very appropriate choice, I thought, for this character, especially since I saw 007 Skyfall, which Ben Whishaw was in as the new Q for. I also liked the polite and crude humor that was used throughout the film. Very well applied. Paddington's character, being really polite but making a lot of accidents and chaos at the same time on accident. That humor worked very well for me too. And there was, whenever the film did try to throw in a few crude humor moments as well, also was pretty effective for me as well. Also, the use of old black and white films is pretty effective here. Like I was saying before, there is something tragic that happens to Paddington's family, but since the humans and these bear creatures have seen each other in the past, they do use this through like old black and white footage, making it look like this is something that's been documented somewhere, from like an explorer's video vlog journal kind of thing. But like I said, just really fun use of old black and white films. You can definitely tell it was made recently because of the really good CGI and things like that, but they were able to make it look grainy and in black and white. And, have the narrator that talks like this, and look at the bears over there, look at the humans over there, look at the jungle over there. And, they kind of use that voice for these old stock footage films as well. And overall, this is just a really great film for kids. I think a lot of kids are really going to have a lot of fun with this film. I don't think a lot of them are going to be whining or complaining or, no, I don't want to see Paddington kind of attitude. I really think they'll have a lot of fun with this film. It definitely has like a Dennis the Menace and Curious George kind of vibe to it. So I think they're going to really have a lot of fun with this movie, even if they don't know a lot about the Paddington book or the Paddington character. For my negatives of Paddington, though, since it's not quite a perfect film, I don't think it quite deserves that 98% current rating on Rotten Tomatoes, I think is what it has right now. Not quite deserving that high, but it is very well made. But for my negatives, there are some acting approaches with some of these actors and actresses where I feel like they're kind of preaching to the kids a little bit, like, now you have to put down that thing now and all that kind of stuff. They were kind of using that tone of voice a lot in this film, and to me, it kind of dumbed down the script a little bit. I know this film's targeted towards kids and adults, and families and things like that, but mostly just kids and families, I should say. But I feel that kind of preach to the kids kind of acting approach, kind of the kindergarten environment kind of thing, really kind of dumbed down the script here, and it really kind of turned me off a little bit. Like I said, I know this is a family and kid target audience film, but I felt that acting approach with a lot of these actors and actresses really kind of dumbed down the script for me a little bit. And I really wish they didn't approach this film this way, because the script they use here is pretty appropriate. So I don't think a lot of parents are going to complain with the content of the script. It is pretty kid friendly. Kid friendly. Another negative I have too is I thought Nicole Kidman's villainous character was very over the top, almost like a cartoon character in a way. I just really couldn't buy into her character at all. I know this is a very goofy script, a very goofy film, definitely a comedic drama at times too, but I felt like her character in a way kind of took away from the script a little bit, to be honest. I love Nicole Kidman as an actress, but she's been in some bad films. This isn't a bad film, but I think this is not a very good performance from her in a film. So just really didn't care for her approach to this character. I think either a better actress would have been better, or just a better character for Paddington to have another antagonist against, I guess. Just over the top performance from Nicole Kidman here in this film, and really didn't work for me. Another negative I have about Paddington is there are some pretty predictable and cheesy plot elements. There is a moment in this film where it's supposed to be a woman that's supposed to be pregnant in a flashback. Um, Sally Hawkins' character, for those who are wondering. It's quite clear right away she's not pregnant. It's a very, very fake pregnant belly. I know it's an exaggerated flashback for the scene that they do this in, but there is a lot of other moments like that where it's just really cheesy and just really didn't work for me. And there's just a lot of moments too where you see a lot of things coming. You know that character's going to be there. You know that plot element's going to happen and things like that. So just some pretty predictable and cheesy plot elements that might turn some people off in this movie. So don't go in expecting too many surprises, I guess I should say. And then my last little small complaint, because this is a very small one. There is a few jokes every once in a while in this film too that do kind of fall flat a little bit. Very funny script overall, very fun script overall. But some of the jokes every once in a while do kind of fall flat, whether you are a kid or adult watching the movie. But overall, I am going to give Paddington an 8.5 out of 10. I think it is a very fun film. I think it's a very welcoming January release because we don't really get a lot of good films like this in January. I'm going to give it a thumbs up, 8.5 out of 10, though. I think it is very good. I think if you have kids, definitely go and see it. If you like the Paddington books, definitely go see it. I think both target audiences will be happy with this film. And if you're just interested in this film like I was, definitely check it out. I don't think it'll probably be my top 10 best of 2015 list, but it is very good. And like I said, for those who are planning on seeing this, please do so. It is a very well-made film. So huge thumbs up for me. Make sure you see Paddington.